What's up, YouTubers? This is me, Johnny, again. Just got back from a run. Just poured myself a nice stout. One of the local stouts here is Guin. Guin. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. It's actually good quality beer. If you buy it at the kind of the yuppie store, it's 25Q. Used to be really cheap. I think 15 or 10Q at happy hour. Probably 15Q at one of the backpacker bars. But since COVID virus, a lot of those places are closed. As a matter of fact, I want to say the Black Cat Hostel, they've changed names, went out of business and changed names. Quite a few businesses have. In fact, when you walk around Shayla, you'll see there's a lot of new office space available. And like example, one of the gyms, it was one of the nicer, bigger gyms. They took all their stuff and moved and went to a cheaper location, which is just in the same mall, but like one or two doors down. Got lower rents and closed or got rid of their lease and went to a new one. That's what a lot of businesses here are doing. They're just moving, getting cheaper rents. Rents are getting cheaper here, or leases. I presume they're leases. I won't talk about one of my friends, but people here are going out of business, and if they're going to go back into business, they just close down shop and open up in a new location at a cheaper location. Anyways, tonight I want to talk about coronavirus. I'm not sure how to talk about this. What does it all mean? There's a lot of videos now on what this all means. I just watched gotta adjust my glasses. I don't know. I'm just gotta adjust things. I saw a presentation yesterday by Jesse. I forget his last name, Jesse. But he's a guy who posts, or he used to post stuff on Facebook. Now he's going to Telegram. And I noticed he's been asked a lot his opinions on why this is, what's going on, or why it's going on. And a lot of people are saying this is a big conspiracy to do X, Y, and Z. Then there's other people who think coronavirus is really a thing, but it's not. It could be a conspiracy of big players, but probably not. I don't think it is. I think it's a bunch of bad actors making a lot of dumb decisions, and I don't see how they're conspiring very well. If they are, this is a Punch and Judy show and like Keystone Cops. I just keep saying it over. Just look at the United Kingdom or the United States or China. It's just a clusterfuck. Anyways, on Jesse's, not a podcast, but on Jesse's presentation, he was talking about there's a lot of things going on where the establishments mostly in the Western world are losing not just legitimacy, but they're losing power. And in general, I agree with that. And coronavirus is just an excuse to kind of shut things down, to kind of keep things together as long as they can before the whole thing collapses. I think if I understood his argument right, that's what he's saying. And that tends to be my view. There really is a thing called COVID. I actually think it was possibly a bioweapon by China that got out of hand. I also think it doesn't affect people as much as people think. In other words, as the data comes out, we're seeing 0.02% of people who get COVID actually die, which is very fascinating because when this first came out, they were predicting 3, 4, 5%, or even 2.5% death rate. It's not even close. And where this is all going, according to Jesse, which I tend to agree with, I probably don't agree with the extreme. He's suggesting, I think, this is going towards social credit, like the Chinese credit in China. We're going to have that in a couple of years. I think the West is watching China to see how it plays out and wants to copy it because they're really fascinated that China's been able to cut down a lot of dissent and control a lot of things. I think Western politicians and Western bureaucrats want to do the same thing. I personally don't think it'll be successful, but we will see. I think what the establishment is going to find when they have slaves, which is what we're going towards, or serfs, they won't be very productive and they won't make a lot of money for them. And I think the ruling classes are just like the old monopoly oil companies, what they used to call the monopoly oil companies, and the cartel oil companies back in the day, and the cartels now in the drug trade. They try to get together and have understandings, but they always break down because they always cheat, just like the oil cartel in the Middle East always cheats. So I think the establishment is a lot like that. They want to come together and conspire to crack down, but I don't think it'll work because not every government's going to want to do it, especially once they see the productivity of their country go down, and the taxes they can take won't be very much, and this will end badly. Anyways, that's kind of what I've been thinking, that COVID is just a crisis that they're latching onto to stop people from traveling, to get people on some kind of government aid program to control their behavior. That's what I think is going on. So people who are rejoicing with all these Trump bucks and Biden bucks, you're going to live to regret it, because if we go to a central bank digital currency, which is what they're calling them now, the EU and the United States have papers on it. And if they give benefits based on these things, and if they can shut them off for whatever reasons, like Jesse was saying, he was saying you're going to be able to spend this on whatever you want as long as it's Netflix and booze. Because if you're on Netflix and booze, you're going to be easily controllable. You're not going to be any kind of opposition for the establishment. I just don't see, if we're all on, watching Netflix and drinking booze all the time, how the establishment is going to benefit over time. But maybe there's something I've missed. But say you don't want to do that and you want to break out of the matrix, they're going to cut you out. And if we go to a society where there's no more cash, there's not much of an offshore world you can escape to, it's going to be very difficult. So we'll see how it all plays out. But what Jesse was talking about, in 2 or 3 years, we could have more social control through big corporations and banks. You won't be able to bank very well or very easy if you say the wrong things. You won't be employable. We'll have a lot of big corporations like we do now, but because, as he was pointing out, all the small businesses, not all, but a lot of them have been wiped out. So that's the backbone of most Western countries' productivity is small business. That's where all the business growth comes from. So since they're wiped out, it'll just be big companies, and the government can put pressure on these companies, say, hey, hire that guy, but don't hire that guy. That guy said the wrong things, he's fired. And the companies will probably go along with it because of all the subsidies and handouts they get indirectly through the Fed, through tax policy, and the like. And with all this AI tech, they can watch everything from your social media. So I think Jesse's pointed out, if you use social media, they're constantly spying on you and using that information against you to sell you stuff, to build up a dossier on you. Like if you lean towards Antifa, or if you lean towards the Trump people, they'll use that against you. I actually see that. I see that as kind of a dystopian type situation that I don't like. I'm not really for any of those camps. I like to stay neutral, stay out of all that. In general, I'm for liberty. I don't really care what people do as long as they mind their own business and don't get involved with what I do. But he was talking about how going in the future, if you want freedom and liberty, you're going to have tools to get back your privacy, tools to protect your laptop, tools to protect your phone from spying from not just governments, but from social media companies and platforms and things like that. So that's a good point. And he was also pointing out something's going to come back like hard copy newsletters. I thought that was funny because I've been thinking about it for a long time. I remember back in the day when you could get newsletters by paper and you kind of look forward to it. I think that he's right, that can come back. Because I think privacy for a small minority of the population is going to become really popular now. He was just giving an example of a brick and mortar business. This is related to privacy, where the rents are getting cheap now. You can rent or buy a really cheap brick and mortar in some of the bigger or smaller cities, big cities, but not like New York or California, but moderately sized cities, cheap enough now. You can get these things. You can black out the windows. Don't put up any advertisements. And you can have like a private business in there that no one really knows about, that'll be by invitation only, or it won't be public marketing for it. So there's going to be a lot more products and services that going to be invisible. Like in his case, he was talking about I forget what it's called, but those things where you go in and you're in total darkness and you float on water. I forget what those are called. But this business he knows of, they don't advertise or anything. It's a club. You have to belong to it. You pay a fee. You go in, you get a key to the back door, and you go in, and no one really knows what goes on there. You're going to see a lot more of that in the future, I think, because as things get regulated more and possibly taxed more, you're going to see people set up businesses in an invisible way, and it won't be public marketing because you don't want the establishment knowing. Even if what you're doing is perfectly legal, you just don't want the establishment knowing where you are, where to go to shut you down. And think, especially in this environment of COVID, when they can just shut you down for any reason whatsoever. So I think that's an interesting aspect, that we're losing our privacy. But there's going to be, he talked about, there's going to be groups of people that are going to kind of migrate towards the big cities, where they're going to be put on UBI, Universal Basic Income. Then there's going to be people who go to smaller cities and smaller towns and communities, small acreages where they're living off the land, running internet-based businesses, more or less off the grid and private. And he pointed out, this will be all over the world, not just in the U.S., but all over the world. And those people who choose liberty, they're going to have more, privacy, and they're going to, come up with technology and ways to get around some of this stuff. And they're going to, trade amongst themselves. They're going to have online businesses where, who knows if they trade with fiat currencies, if they're still available, Bitcoin, gold, who knows what's going to be available in the future. But as of now, we'll be just settling with dollars and Bitcoin and maybe gold coins or silver coins or whatever. Anyways, it's very fascinating that he sees like a splitting in society. I actually see that too. Or one group is going to go over here. They're going to take they're going to go on all the state-funded welfare benefits. They call it welfare, but the corporations, people are going to take money from the government to not do anything probably. And another group of people are going to go over here. They're going to go over here, and they're going to kind of live off the land and be kind of remnants. I don't like using Bible ideology, but kind of remnants. I don't know how else to call them, but living on the outside or on the edges of these places, being productive, growing stuff, coming up with new technologies, carrying on more freedom and liberty-oriented type ideas, and doing business trading with themselves. There's also going to be this going all over the world. I think he's right. It's going to happen all over the world because not every society has the capacity or can afford to put everyone on UBI. I still don't see how it's going to work, but he sees it like there's going to be governments putting people on UBI. There's going to be massive unemployment because we're getting to a society where we don't need all these not very productive, I don't like to be mean, but not very productive people who don't have skills anymore. They're running out of capital or savings. They have no savings, and if you don't pay them off through UBI, they can literally be riding in the streets. So what can they do? They can do like the Chinese social credit. They can, track everything you do. They can give you your online wallet for your state-funded currency, central bank digital currency. And if you say or do anything that's not allowed, they cut you off of your food credits, cut you off of your banking, whatever. You buy the wrong, like say gold's still legal to buy. He's tried to buy gold coins with your central bank digital. They cut you off. You can't do it. You try to buy Bitcoin. You can't do it. You try to do business with people that they don't want you to do, but you can't do it. So that's the kind of dystopian kind of world we're going towards. And I find it fascinating. Now, here's my view. I think part of the reason we're going there is states are bankrupt. All across the Western world, from the United States to the United Kingdom to most of Western Europe, they're bankrupt. I think they're using this as an excuse to try to shut things down because they know there's going to be a massive protest because they can't pay out these state guaranteed benefits. And the advantages of UBI is they can put everyone on UBI at a much reduced rate. I don't know how they're going to afford it even then, but they can quite literally have everyone get the equivalent of, say, $300 US, and they can make laws that says owners of property can't get their rents anymore. I don't know how that's going to work because the owners of these properties owe money to the banks, and the banks are bankrupt. So if they don't pay the banks go bankrupt. So then they still have to bail out the banks again. Same with student loans, but that's the world it seems like we're going to. So they can just say, look, you can't keep people out of their homes because that will create more homelessness. You're just going to let them stay, not pay rent. We're going to pay everyone $300 you buy to buy groceries. My point is, who's going to who's going to pick the crop, so to speak, and the infrastructure to deliver all this if everyone's on UBI? And I don't think people are going to be happy living on $300 a month or whatever it is they decide on. And I also think this is going to lead towards not hyperinflation, but mass inflation. I don't think people realize what 5 or 10% inflation is going to do to our economy in the Western. I think people think that's manageable and doable. I don't think it is. That's why it's going to be interesting to see what happens when we get that 3% number where inflation is 3% in the Eurozone or the U.S. or Canada. Because they think the establishment, central bankers think they can just flip a switch and just lower inflation down. And what I hear is they're saying, the establishment is saying, well, all we have to do if we have UBI and inflation gets above 3, 4, 5%, we just tax that away. I don't think they understand how the economy works. You can't just tax that away. Not to mention the fact the tax cows can leave. At least the wealthy have already left. The middle classes are leaving California, but so then we're going to say everyone can't leave anymore? We'll see how that works. I mean, we will see how it works, but if they actually do that, even wealthy people will start protesting in the streets. So we'll see how it goes. But my view of COVID is this is just cover to start clamping down on people's freedom and liberties because they realize coming soon in the next 10 years, 15 years, I actually think it could be sooner, 5 years maybe. Social Security in the U.S., it's barely fundable now. If we're in a massive recession in the next 2 years and tax revenues just going to the toilet, I don't see how that's going to be funded anymore. The only way it will be funded is by printing money. And I'm not convinced yet that the establishment is willing to accept 10%, 15%, 20% inflation. I think once it gets up to that, they will clamp down. What will they do? I don't know yet. But they can clamp down and stop printing money. But then that'll create the biggest deflation depression we ever had. And then what will they do? Reinflate? I guess, to me, that's what they'll do. But we'll see when we get there. But I think they're just trying to implement policies where they can get another 5 or 10 years of managed growth and kind of loot the treasury for themselves without having the masses rioting in the streets. And I also see all this new technology that's coming on is going to be used to clamp down on people's freedom and liberty. So once people realize that they're just serfs, it'll be interesting to see because serfs aren't going to be that productive. And a lot of serfs will escape. It reminds me of the Roman times when the Roman citizenry was highly taxed and they were scared to go into the hinterlands where the barbarians were. Usually when they crossed that line, they got robbed, but at least that's all they had. They got robbed and they are free to run their business, do whatever they want, integrated society in the barbarian lands. I feel like that's what it is like with U.S. citizens. They can go across that Mexican border. Hopefully they don't get robbed, but it's an adjustment to get it adjusted to the culture in Latin America. But if they keep on going, they can run their business and no one bothers them. I think that's kind of like we're living in those kind of times, Roman times, except for with all our new technology. And in my end, I'm really considering getting off a lot of social media. It'll be difficult to get off YouTube. I don't know if I will or not, but Facebook and all these other things. I just don't see it ending well for people being on. And not only that, Facebook, Instagram, I can't name them all, but like Tinder. Tinder is being used in some parts of Latin America to lure dates, women getting dates to get men, and then they get robbed. So a lot of the social media is not going to be used in ways it was intended. Oh, this book, this stout is good. It's really rich, really good. If you're in Central America, check it out. Anyways, that's what I think is going on. I think things are coming unglued. Like I said in a previous video, a lot of people think I'm wrong, but you're free to disagree. But I really think the establishment's losing credibility, losing legitimacy. I personally believe if the establishment doesn't have legitimacy, it's hard to rule. I think a lot of average Republicans and Democrats in the U.S. won't want to comply with all these rules and regulations if they don't feel like they're getting a fair deal. Now, I don't know if I see them rioting in the streets. I don't know that I see that, but I can see them not cooperating when it comes to paying tax. I can see them not cooperating when it comes to adhering to federal regulations. I can see even sheriff's department making it difficult for the feds to come in and shut down small businesses. I've even heard of a few stories where the local sheriff's department made it hard for the feds to come in and take down certain drug situations, which I don't want to comment too much on, but that's a kind of a weird thing to see in the U.S. You're starting to see some sheriff departments rebel against the federal government. Now, I don't think it's a big deal yet, but I just think this COVID thing is being used as an excuse to do what the establishments always wanted to do, which is really crack down. And I think they're really frightened because in the last month or two, just a couple of days ago with GameStop, with the some Trump supporters, I don't want to say invading, but going into the White House and tearing things up. Then this last summer with the Antifa and the Black Lives Matters rioting in the streets, things are coming unglued. And I just think this is a last-ditch effort on the establishment to loot the Treasury, keep people down, and try to keep things together for another 1 or 2 business cycles to loot the Treasury more. I think we're getting closer and closer where they're going to lose power. What comes after them, I really don't know. But the days of them looting and having legitimacy are over. I don't see it happening. I really don't know what to expect. In fact, I don't even think you should expect UBI and all these checks to continue, because as of now, it's a Punch and Judy show in the U.S. Congress as far as coming together and making a package to bail out everyone. We'll see what happens. I'm fairly confident that they will, and I'm fairly confident they'll bail out mostly these big businesses, but not 100%. We'll have to see what happens. But if they do come out with packages that bails out big business and bails out the banks and bails out all these unemployed people and gives people some kind of UBI, I would expect gold to take off. I would expect Bitcoin to continue its huge rise. I've been expecting Bitcoin to really sell off, but it hasn't. So I'm guessing we're off to $100,000. It's crazy that sounds. And I would expect at 100,000 to be correct back to 50,000 or 20,000 or 30,000. But even then, I'm not so sure. We should have had a correction already, but we haven't. We're having more and more, I hate to say the billionaire class, but we're having more and more billionaire type people signaling. They're signaling they're buying. And as this capital comes in, it's hard to see Bitcoin correcting a lot. Eventually it will. But correcting from 100,000, correcting from 250,000, I don't know. And I expect by June, August, there could be a potential big stock market crash from all this. And then another reflation to bail that out. I expect to see, at that point, I would guess, going into the summer, we might see gold starting to rally. So far, we haven't really seen any big rallies in gold or silver. A lot of people have been disappointed. I personally think that gold's been in what I would call a bear market. It's in a long-term bull market, but in a kind of a mini bear market. And I would expect by August, September, maybe, gold will start trending up. And I might be wrong on the timing, but if it starts trending up, I think it's going to shock people how fast it goes to 2,000 or 2,500 or 3,000 or 3,500. Just like people are shocked that Bitcoin's at, well, today I think it's at 36,000, 37,000 per coin. People are shocked that it went up to 42,000 and corrected back to 29,000, 30,000. I think people are going to be shocked to see Bitcoin go up to 100,000. And then later this year to see gold go to $2,500 or $3,500 an ounce. And I'm not telling people which is a better speculative vehicle, gold, Bitcoin. It seems like to me, Bitcoin is, from a speculative point of view, you'll make more money with less risk. I still think a person should own gold, though. Personally, that's my opinion. I'm an old school guy. Owning real estate in another country or owning some gold coins can't hurt. It may not outperform like Bitcoin, but there's not much else you can diversify into except for starting your own business. I mean, to me, that's the best thing to protect yourself from this coming inflation. If you want to protect yourself from this coming dystopian potential future outcome, the only thing you can do is start a business. Like Jesse was saying in his video, well, there's many things he said, but one of the biggest and most important things, have an income that you can do anywhere in the world. There's other things too, but that was one of the big takeaways. You're going to have to get an income outside of your job that you can do anywhere. You're going to have to learn new skills. That's a painful thing even for me to hear. I know it's true, but we're all used to doing what we're doing, but we all have to go through a painful adjustment of learning new skills to survive whatever this new economy is. Because as of now, the government, if they shall choose, they can shut down the banking system. I don't say that they'll do that, but they could. They can we've already seen how tough they're making it to travel. You can't surely travel easy anymore. They're willing to bankrupt airlines. They're willing to bankrupt cruise lines. They're willing to, we've seen they're 100% willing. Both the Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals, all over the world have said they are totally willing to sacrifice all middle class businesses. They just flat out said, yeah, we'll let you guys go down with the ship. We're going to bail out the elites, but we'll let you guys go down and get nothing. That's creating some serious anger. That's why I think this could actually end up good, because a lot of good people will see, they're going to get the shaft. They're not going to cooperate anymore. Maybe they lost everything, but just like this GameStop thing, what it's showing you is people who have their $600 checks deposited into Robinson, knowing full well they could speculate and lose it all, but they'd rather lose it all if that means the hedge funds goes out of business. They're happy to do it. This is the new world we live in. And that's why I tell my viewers to prepare for this kind of new world. And sometimes to prepare in this new world, you're going to have to go and do things that are going to make you uncomfortable. Maybe owning Bitcoin makes you feel uncomfortable. Maybe owning a gold coin makes you feel uncomfortable. And don't think of it as a long-term play. It can be, but I'm just saying it's just a bridge that you're going to be in until something new comes on. I don't know what that new thing will be. Just like learning these new skills, we might have to continue to learn new skills to survive all this, because things from a technological point of view are changing just so fast. There's now, my understanding, there's phones and laptops that are going to be more secure. Of course, they're going to be more expensive, but even with the technology we have, if you talk to a technology specialist, which I'm not, you can make your devices more secure. You can also store your devices in those, I forget what they're called, but basically you take a microwave, you put them inside a microwave, you cut off the cord, etc., etc. But there's new things coming that you can do to protect yourself. It's not 100%, but my opinion is the government's broke. They can't go after everyone. They can't put everyone in jail. They can't dedicate all their employees to chasing down every U.S. citizen overseas or inside the country for that matter. So actually, average people have the advantage. They just don't realize it yet. But soon they will realize they actually do have the advantage. They don't have to cooperate anymore. Anyways, those are my thoughts this evening while I enjoy my Goin Stout. If you have a different opinion, leave it. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think is going on in the world. I think we're going to go towards, some parts, like Jesse said, there's going to be certain people that are going to go for the welfare benefits, and I want to wish them well. It's not for me. There's other people that are going to want to go for liberty. Come what may, they'll just take the risks, and those over here will go here, those over there will go there, and that's the kind of society we're going to go in. And I think we're going to go to a society where it's almost like the pioneering days. We're going to be doing things we're uncomfortable doing, living in places we've never lived before, learning how to grow our own food, learning how to navigate the internet world in a more anonymous way, learning skills that we can charge money for while we're doing all this to pay for ourselves, trading our skills for not just food, but for just anything. And we're going to go in a world where more and more people are going to cooperate more than not. And the people on the other side, they're going to go in the world where they're just going to they're going to take their little plug-in and they're going to plug into the Matrix, and they're just going to get their free Netflix and booze, and they're not going to think anything of it. And it's a sad thing, but it's just the world we're going into. But the good news is some people are waking, many people, millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people all over the world are waking up to what's going on. They're going to go over here. They're going to go for liberty and freedom. These other folks are going to go over there and just plug into the Matrix like in the movies, and just, there's nothing you can do. People are going to choose this way or that way. There's not much we can do about it except for decide for ourselves what we want. Anyhow, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Thank you, and have a really good weekend.